These men are called sailors. These men are called soldiers. Pacific is the ocean. Peleliu is the island. 1944 is the year. For everything there is an appointed time. And there is a time for every purpose under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to heal and a time to kill. A time to build up and a time to break down. A time to laugh and a time to weep. A time to dance and a time to mourn. A time to seek and a time to lose. A time to keep and a time to cast away. A time to love and a time to hate. A time for peace and a time for war. Pacific Fleet Communique number 117. United States Army and Marine Assault Troops established beachheads in the Peleliu Islands on September 14th, west longitude date. That is what is announced. That is what the world knows. But it is no news to the men on Peleliu, where the true meaning of the official words is known to them, and to them only. Pacific Fleet Communique number 118. United States Marines made some additional gains against strong opposition on Peleliu Island. This thought I hold with firm persistence. The last result of wisdom stamps it true. He only earns his freedom and existence, who daily conquers them anew. to the application of that force, there is no limit, say the philosophers of war. Force, first on Peleliu, and now force on nearby Anguar. These islands must be taken if the Philippines, only 500 miles away, are to be liberated. Peleliu and Anguar, two if by sea. Pacific Fleet Communique number 120. The landings were made by troops of the 81st Infantry Division. All objectives have been gained against resistance, which so far has been relatively light. I will calmly offer up the courage of my soul, says the battle code of the Japanese soldier. I will never suffer the disgrace of being taken alive. Soldiers are citizens of death's gray land, drawing no dividends from time's tomorrows. In the great hour of destiny they stand, each with his feuds and the jealousies and sorrows. Soldiers are sworn for action. They must win some flaming, fatal climax with their lives. Soldiers are dreamers. When the guns begin, they think of firelit homes, clean beds and wives. Pacific Fleet Headquarters announces an attempt by the enemy to reinforce his beleaguered troops on Peleliu Island was broken up. A convoy of 13 barges and one motor sampan carrying men and equipment was sighted northeast of Peleliu. It was immediately brought under fire. A number of barges were seen to explode. A number of the enemy were able to swim ashore. Pacific Fleet Communique number 126. The 1st Marine Division made minor gains in a northern direction along the western ridge of Peleliu Island, facing stiff opposition from enemy troops well entrenched in precipitous terrain. Pacific Fleet Communique number 131. Certain elements of the 81st Infantry Division have reinforced the 1st Marine Division, while other elements are continuing to mop up Anguar Island. Heavy fighting continues. Pacific Fleet Communique number 135. The 1st Marine Division and elements of the 81st Infantry Division continue to drive the enemy from remaining positions on Peleliu Island. And from island after island, country after country, continent after continent, and all the 7 seas, the free worlds, brave and young, drive the enemy from remaining positions. It has been, it is, it will be the same, forever so, until the forces of tyranny are no more. never be known to any other than those who fought it. It is they who understand. It is they who suffer defeat. It is they who conquer. These are the men into whose hands society has placed its means of survival today, its prayers for tomorrow. They have fought a good fight. They have finished their course. They have kept the faith. States Navy's hospital ships speak of what help their countrymen can hold out in the blackest hour of battle. Hope, mercy, solace, comfort, relief. Pacific Fleet Communique number 137. More than 10,000 enemy troops have been wiped out in the southern Palau area since the invasion began. Elimination of the remnants of the Japanese defenders continues. Pacific Fleet Communique number 139. Mopping up operations proceed. The difficult work of routing out enemy troops from nearly inaccessible caves continues. When Joshua heard the sound of the people shouting, he said to Moses, "There is the sound of war in the camp." But, he said, "It is not the sound of the cry of might, nor is it the sound of the cry of defeat. It is the sound of singing that I hear."